everybody, and I want to actually start on what you ended, that how to have this kind of crimes not being repeated. To have them not repeated requires the people who will not repeat it. And beside the institutions and regulations and laws and all of those things. I'm here as both as in several shoes. One that I've experienced the prison, the other one is that I experienced that being giving a testimony and participating in the organization. And now I feel like I'm giving testimony on giving testimony. So kind of it's all layers of testimony and testimony coming. So it might be a lot of sight just going this way and that way. Please bear with me. And I'm going to build up on what has been said. There are lots of amazing things has been said, a lot of things that I share with the other speakers about the value of the People's Tribunal and it's the significance of it in our today's condition that we exist in the impunity everywhere. And then the role of the citizens, the direct role of the citizens in seeking justice and seeking truth. One of the things that I'm going to start with, it's something is very personal, and probably if I start with that, then you can see how I go through my, it's kind of central to my talk. This is the notion and the identity of victim and survivor. Interestingly thing is that I never saw myself as a victim nor as a survivor. I've never heard any of the prisoners in Iran, when we were in prison, when we were outside of the prison, when we were by ourselves, referring to ourselves as victims or survivors. Victim, if you look at any dictionary, means one who receives harm, one who receives hurt, one who has been done something on him or her, one who is just a receiver, okay? And in Farsi is qurbani. Qurbani is exactly the sacrifice that has nothing to do, it's just being taken and just been sacrificed. Survivor, again, defines you by one who remains alive. And it's only about that you continue living after something. Both of them define you as a person based on your objective conditions. Is that if you have been killed by somebody or not, or if you have been hurt by somebody or not. So who the heck you are is not a matter at all. And that's something that I found it's very interesting in this whole process of creating, when I came up in here and arrived in this space of human rights and justice and thing, and I thought, oh, you become a victim. By becoming a victim, which is very valid in the legal process, you create a body of truth. That's a truth of how in a state, in our case, a political prison structure sees you, takes you as an object. So it's always, I am being identified from the perspective of my torturer. I am that thing that the torturer wants me to be, the object of his force. So what I come and testify and create a body, all of the people like me, create a body of evidence and facts. What we do, we testify to the subjectivity and power of this state, of the prison, of the torturer, of the interrogators. We all become carriers of truth of what they do, of what they wanted us to be. We are not giving a truth of who we are. We only give that much. And then, when we give those things, they get compiled, and as you said it very well, we come to these things that These are the type of the categories of the torture, lashed, rapuni, this and that, 60 types of torture. This is, again, what we are counting is what the state has done, what the prison structure has done. What is left out, again, is who we are, our subjectivity, our agency. From here, I'll come to the Iran Tribunal, and in the Tribunal, People's Tribunal. So on one hand, what People's Tribunal does is that actually compile all of these evidences that they are necessary, they're valid, they really need to be there for showing and the atrocity that a state, a power can commit and is capable of committing in complete impunity inside the country and international impunity, all of those. This is very important fact. But then the other thing is that Iran Tribunal, for example, did, is shows the other aspect of who we are, and actually is that we are subjects. We had agencies. After 30 years of trying to be, all of these body of international institution and Iranian institution tried to deny our existence and suffocate us, our voices and our faces, we took it in our own hand and created our own agent, our own institution. So a People's Tribunal then becomes the other important aspect of it is that it is the real manifestation of people's agency, that this agency never have been eliminated from us. Actually, the whole war was because we had this agency, and the whole purpose of torture was because we have this agency, and they wanted to take it away from us. So this is very important. When I get started and I came in, when I actually sat at my home in Canada in front of a computer and watched the testimonies in London, I was very disturbed and walking around and didn't know what to do, how to hold myself. I saw my old cellmates, I saw family members, all of these people, that they're trying to say everything in 20 minutes. How can you say everything in 20 minutes? And say what? Years of yourself, what you went through, and hundreds of other peoples that you're carrying. I mean, they're all, you could see that they're all everywhere around these people. Their body language, they all give that to you. And they were trying to say everything about everybody in 20 minutes. It took me 2 years to find out that actually what was there that it was bothering me. I went through the whole process and I went through that process, and I myself was bothered, but I couldn't know what it was. Let me show you a couple of the slides. That will help. Help me to tell you, to show you, give examples of this, what I mean by one being a person, a subject, but in the framework of the Truth Commission is being considered as a victim only, regarded as a victim. We have here witness 68, Ali Ibrahimzadeh. The status as a witness, brother of victim. So he is sitting in, he's called to take a testimony. And what he's asked of is they give the condition of his brother's arrest, the circumstances of his brother's arrest. That's a very valid question because that would give evidence of the how the system treats its victims. What Ali does it was in 1983 when his brother was arrested. But what Ali does, he shows us a picture of his brother from 1967. Then he gives us a picture of his brother with, sitting with his wife, his mother, other brother, sister, and he shows us that. He starts to tell us about his brother Ghulam from 1967, who Ghulam was. He could not start saying that he was arrested at this moment and how unfairly was arrested. Give those only the details of victimization. For him, Ghulam was a person who was an activist during the Shah time, who got arrested, released, again continued his resistance. He was active again, arrested, released, arrested again, and released at the hand of the revolution until he came to 1983. So he could not separate being object and being subject. Is that always he was a subject and object. We have the same thing here. Akram Beronvand. Witness 52, status of the victim, survivor and family member of 2 victims. Akram was one of my cellmates, so I knew her. So she again is asked about the circumstances of her first arrest. And she tries to squeeze as much as she can about telling about everybody that everything that she could say about other peoples, how the other peoples were tortured at that time. When she got in, she says, I got tortured, but I saw this and that, and all of these other tortures, that people being like this, people being like treated like that. And she says it instead of just giving the circumstances. That means that she was arrested as a suspicious person at this time for this 2 weeks. She has to be stopped and then again asked about what was your circumstances of your second arrest. And then again she starts to push whatever she could into that space. And she goes on, trying to tell about other people that she saw this person, that person was going for execution, and her mood was like this. She gave us this kind of a talk so she starts to talk about one of her cellmates as a subject, not just somebody who was executed, but how she felt and went for these executions as a person. Then again, she's asked about if she got 8-year sentence. Instead of just confirming, she takes again her chance to say, yes, but there is those times that you are in prison and serving your sentences. We had this movement, we were protesting against. She tries to put her subjectivity, that's what I put the name on it, the subjectivity. But as the people that they were resisting a regulation in the prison, for that resisting, then they get punished, put for 9 months in such and such circumstances. The follow-up question actually was shocking for me. The follow-up question was not that why that regulation, for example, prison regulation was so important for you, that you knew that you would be tortured when you would resist it, and you resisted it. No. The follow-up the question was not about that. How did you experience that punishment? Who these 30, 40 people that they were in that position, how did you live it? No. The follow-up question was that when you were in that condition, did you ever had a thought of committing suicide or experiencing moments of insanity? It's a very valid question. It's a very valid question, and it would provide a good factual evidence of the harsh condition for a legal truth, but leaves all of the experience that she was trying to put in as a person out. So she goes out, and she tries to say, no, I didn't, but there were, these things was happening all the time. I was one of the lucky person because I tried to give all of the evidence as this happened and that happened, that happened. And thanks to my prosecutor, Sir Jeffrey, one of his first questions was that, were you always defiant? And I tried not to answer that, and he forced me to say, were you always defiant in the prison, resistant or not? And I said yes, and he brought that out of me. But when you go look at these things, I'm trying to be quick because I want to leave some time. You tell me when to stop. You see, this is the summary of her oral testimony. What is left behind of her story is that she was tortured. She witnesses other tortures. Her courtroom was in that room. And such person was beating up prisoners. Again, some factual things that it says that how she was an object of power, but not agent of her own existence, of a resistance, none of it. That part left behind. So what we have here, with all of the things that the People's Tribunal has, which is that I am very, I'm for it, and I'm avid supporter for People's Tribunal, is exactly because of all of those things that Hamid said, and all of the things that other people said, that it was a people's institution. We created that institution. And that was, again, the manifestation of our agency, of our subjectivity. It was, again, the manifestation of a resistance that does not die. It's a resilience of a people that no matter how much the power wants to objectify it, it has its own subjectivity, it has its own agency, and it has its own power. Then we have these contradictory things in this process, because the same process turns you to an object of the legal truth. And then it turns you to object of political utilization, because there is a political, as you said, all of these are political as well. So political organization, political opposition takes this and uses it in their own, all of the different political bodies use all of these facts that is remain, they use it in their own political campaign. Then there are filmmakers, documentary makers, all of this. They all come and take exactly these pieces that reduced you only to a victim. And that perpetuates this identity of being a victim, of being only an object of power. You always being seen from the perspective of the power, not from perspective of your power. So this goes on and on. One thing that I noticed after the tribunal was, as a witness of my witnesses, of my co-witnesses, and because I was inside this institution, everybody talks about the cathartic effect of this witnessing. True, but there is a frustrating effect of these things. It's a traumatizing effect of witnessing, testifying. You come after 30 years, have a mountain of volcano inside your body, inside your psyche. You're holding down. You come here, you bring all of your vulnerability outside in the public space. Claim this our public space. Have the courage to show your vulnerability because you feel responsible. You bring a little bit of it out, and then your time is done. Go. And you go with what? That comes to John Cooper, what it says. What after the tribunal? After getting that document, that judgment, that achievement, then these subjects are left behind, as people are left behind. The document stays there. The very bare minimum of their experience exists there, goes to some shelves or being used by some political thing, but those people are left behind. They find themselves, can I have some water? Some people feel betrayed, used. Some people don't know what happened to them. They feel exactly those physical trauma It comes into their physical body. They become sick physically. They become, I mean, you don't know what's happening to you, but you know something is like a whirlpool is moving inside you, and you don't have any outlet anymore. You lose your outlet by the end of this tribunal. So if it is a people's tribunal, it should not only limit itself to its function as getting a verdict out. That would be that would limit its function or its identity, because it limits it to imitating a real tribunal. It gets the verdict and is done. But if it's a people's tribunal, it should see itself as continuing this process of and helping and supporting this process of subjectivity formation, and keep, instead of closing down, actually opening it up to more. There are thousands of Iranians around, first generation, second generation, that they've been experiencing and affected by all of these traumas of the 1980s, and after that, even 1990s and 2000s, and all of these things that is happening. It should open itself and create the people that they can prevent to the repeating of this kind of atrocities. I stop here. Thank you very much.